Chapter 1 Start. Chapter length, 1820 words. Unknown MC Pav. Somewhere on sea, East Blue. Monkey D. Luffy woke up abruptly, his eyelids revealing a dark and confined environment. A strange sensation enveloped his body, pressed against the wooden walls of the barrel, while the rhythmic movements of the sea produced a gentle sway in the structure. Cautiously, he rubbed his eyes as if trying to dispel the fog of sleep and comprehend the reality around him, with blurry images in his head. The barrel, though confined, had become a peculiar capsule that held the first moments of his memory comeback. The darkness that surrounded him was a veil of uncertainty, but as his senses adjusted, Luffy began to discern familiar details. The worn wood under his fingers, the muffled echoes of the ocean around, and the continuous motion of the waves, all indicated that he was in a place that, though initially unknown, carried an iconic atmosphere. This awakening inside the barrel, once mysterious, became the introduction to the rebirth of a new Monkey D. Luffy in a revamped world. His now perceptive eyes explored the confined space, capturing details that identified it as a unique starting point and reflecting on his situation. At every moment, Luffy's awareness gained clarity about his unique situation. Where the hell am I? I remember dying. He murmured to himself, scratching his head in the darkness. It felt like a dream, but as time passed, he became more aware of his situation. Luffy didn't have much time to think because soon a flood of memories began to surface inside his head, between a past life and a new life that he had lived in this world before this moment. I'll be more powerful, and I'll never be caught. I will be more powerful. I will be. No, it will be me. I. You kids are so funny, ha. An adult man wearing a straw hat laughed, watching the two children with an amused look. Luffy, you are too childish, someone commented, expressing a mix of concern and understanding. She's right, Luffy, another added, agreeing with the previous assessment. You girls don't understand. I'll be a great pirate and will rule all the seas. Luffy asserted, excited and full of confidence. Tisk, I don't like that dream, Luffy. I want a world where people live happily, Yuta expressed discontent. It's a beautiful dream, Yuta. I want to bring justice to the world. Yuta, I have a bad feeling about this journey. Luffy commented, a wrinkle of concern marking his forehead. I'll be fine, silly. Remember our promise? Yuta replied, displaying a reassuring smile. That we would stay together. But that was weird. I still don't understand. You'll find out in the future. Foo. Yuta laughed mysteriously, leaving a suspenseful aura in the air. I hate you, Shanks. Luffy shouted and ran out with tears in his eyes. Shanks. Why? The boy cried on the man's chest. I couldn't let a boy die, could I? Shanks replied, his voice conveying compassion. But. Your arm. The boy tried to avoid looking where Shanks had lost his arm to save him. Even though he was a good swimmer, he couldn't go back to the village with that sea monster, but Shanks still saved him. I swear, this is my dream. One day, I'll have a crew that will be the most powerful ever in this world. I will be the strongest pirate and man of all. No one will stop me, whether it's you or Lucy. The boy shouted with his childish voice but seemed quite sincere. Ha. I liked hearing that, Luffy. Let's make a promise then. Shanks said, taking off his hat and putting it on a confused Luffy. You see, this hat is very precious to me. I want you to wear it until the day you become a great pirate, and you have to protect your sister too. She is very special. Shanks said with a casual tone, but no one could imagine the weight behind those words. This. Your hat, Shanks. Luffy and Lucy looked at the man in surprise. Yes, now it's yours, and it looks great on you. So, promise me. Shanks smiled. I promise. I will become a great pirate, recognized as the great emperor of the sea. I will protect my sister and one day pass your hat on. Luffy shouted with excitement. I'll be waiting. Shanks left after that, leaving behind a promise that would echo through time. Ha. This is the fist of love. You will always feel your grandpa's love. This is to remove any influence that damn redhead has put on you. Garp said seriously. You spat on my sister, you bastard. Luffy saw that and ran to hit the boy. I see you've already met. This is Ace, Luffy, and Lucy, and you are siblings from now on. Garp crossed his arms. Luffy was already defeated on the ground since he couldn't beat a boy 3 years older than him. Brother. What? With this, we'll be officially siblings from this moment on. Yes. Ha. Cool. Let's drink. Shishi, I have more siblings. In a moment of euphoria and shared dreams. I will be the emperor of all seas. Luffy shouted, his voice full of determination echoing on the beach. I will be a powerful marine, and I will capture you, Luffy. Lucy exclaimed, looking at the horizon with eyes full of determination and pride. I want to make my own name in the world. Ace proclaimed, raising his fist towards the sky, challenging destiny. Freedom at sea and fighting against oppression. That's what I want. Sabo declared, his gaze fixed on the ocean, as if he could see a future free and full of adventures. Ace was crying in a corner. Luffy let the tears flow silently. Luffy. He's really gone. Lucy sobbed along with her brother, incessant tears marking the trail of their sadness. Yes, Lucy. Sabo. Died. Luffy said in tears too, his voice wavering with the pain of loss. Ah. Lucy cried viscerally, as if each tear were an echo of the pain her heart carried. I'm so sorry, sister, I'm so sorry. Luffy wrapped Lucy in his arms, letting her cry on his shoulder, while his own tears mixed with hers. It was a shared lament between siblings who had lost someone they loved. Ace, good luck. You can do it, Ace. Master it before I arrive, because I plan to give you a beating. You can wait, Luffy. You'll never surpass me. I will capture you and bring justice. Good luck trying that, Lucy. Goodbye, brother. Goodbye, Ace. See you in the future, siblings. Lucy, we'll see each other soon, right? Yes, brother. I'll leave earlier, but we'll meet in the sea. Good luck, Lucy. Me too, brother. Lucy had strange eyes for Luffy. Luffy remained silent, not knowing how to react to that. About that. Lucy commented. Let's keep that just between us, Lucy. We'll talk about it in the future, for now, follow your dreams. Luffy commented. Yes, brother, and you follow yours. I want to see you soon. She said excitedly. Goodbye, everyone. Good luck, Luffy. Don't embarrass the village. Good luck. Follow your dreams, kid. We have faith in you. Goodbye, all. Soon you'll be seeing my picture in the newspaper. Many images, people, and situations passed through Luffy's mind at this moment. There were scenes of him in another world too, conflicting at this moment, even creating an existential crisis at this moment. This is my life in this world. He exclaimed, feeling a slight headache with all those images arising between two lives at once. Luffy realized that something had changed in himself too. His body was growing and becoming different, stronger and more vibrant. The familiar features of his old self were replaced by a more robust, almost legendary version. He felt a pulsating energy within him, a promise of power and possibilities. That's different. Luffy reflected, acknowledging the changes in himself. I'm no longer the same Monkey D. Luffy. I am something more. Memories from my past life are coming back, and new powers are emerging in this body. As he absorbed the situation, the memory of a robotic voice echoed in his mind, reminding him of his mythical and unique post-death encounter with an identity. He gained a chance to be reborn in the fantastic world of One Piece as a character named Monkey D. Luffy. So, but I'm an original character, huh? Luffy pondered, looking at his hands in that darkness. That explains the changes. He remembered the stories he knew about the One Piece universe. The lines of destiny were redrawn with his presence in this world. According to that identity, there were changes, and this Luffy is not originally Nika but someone else, and now he had the chance to leave a unique mark in history. Let's think about my benefits now. To start, I received 2 powerful devil fruits, 4 summoning cards as an initial bonus, and a shop system as my safe haven for this world. Now that I have received these powers with my memories, my body is changing, especially the mythical zone I acquired. Luffy seemed satisfied inside the barrel. As I am not the original Monkey D. Luffy, there is another character who was born to be the MC of this world. I know him very well with my life in this world so far, and he is not a pirate. Now, with my memories coming back, while I started my journey in the barrel by coincidence, I'm sure this world is about to get even more interesting. Luffy murmured, feeling a renewed excitement with the expectations of his possibilities in this world. The first changes in this non-original Luffy are his size. He is 2.1 meters tall with a strong body, despite never having the Hito no Mi or any other devil fruit. He trained a lot with his brothers. He now has tattoos across his torso, as it was part of his original personality in his past life and was added to his body as memories returned. His hair is a modern style, with a side undercut, akin to David's style from Cyberpunk. With the addition of the mythical zone devil fruit, his muscles grew even larger at this moment, making his current clothes tight on him. His eyes turned red as a consequence of the fruit's power, and he had changed quite a bit. If the potential of the Monkey D. family was already great, the addition of his current fruit made him explode with possibilities. His body was now far beyond the understanding of ordinary humans. Image of Luffy here. Well, it looks like I can finally start my adventure in this world. Luffy commented, still in the dark but ready to leave that barrel and begin his journey. Dash 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 dash. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. 41. Chapter 2 Where am I? Chapter size, 1933 words. Monkey D. Luffy's POV. Somewhere in the East Blue Sea. With the spontaneous growth after the powers of the devil fruits in his body, Luffy first received the Moa Moa no Mi, a fruit with tremendous potential. In the original work, it was limited to increasing speed and mass, but its essence is multiplication. Luffy knew its potential was much greater. He could increase speed, mass, weight, defense, recovery, learning, gravity, mind, and sound. There were still other possibilities that Luffy hadn't unlocked yet, but he planned to do so in the future. In his opinion, Luffy concluded that he had the devil fruit with the most potential in the world. Imagine reaching your peak with the ability to increase speed and strength by 100 times. His second fruit is not original to this world but from Final Fantasy XVI, one of the colossal monsters known as icons. Luffy's icon is the Hell icon, also known as the second fire icon, Ifrit, used by the protagonist of the game. However, Luffy's Ifrit is modified. Instead of normal colored flames, he possesses chaos flames with amethyst hues that surpass even Akainu's magma heat and can disintegrate matter. The official name of his devil fruit is Icon no Mi, Chaos Ifrit. He still had the cards in the system to figure out, but he decided to handle that later. At the moment, his priority was to get out of this barrel floating in the middle of the sea. Without wasting more time, amid the vastness of the sea where the barrel floated in the solitary horizon, its lid exploded, turning into hundreds of shards in the air above the wooden object. Boom. The punch was so powerful that the lid had no chance. The sound echoed for hundreds of meters with its reverberation. In the barrel, a raised fist could be seen emerging from it, while a tattooed man with clothes that no longer seemed to fit him gradually stood up. This was Monkey D. Luffy, or rather, the new Monkey D. Luffy. The boy looked around, trying to orient himself, but his own sigh was the only response he got, as there was nothing beyond the horizon on all sides, no sign of a nearby ship or island. Seems like I'm quite ahead of when the events start. Still, why should I waste my time in a barrel that isn't even big enough for me now? I might as well wait for some sailors to pick me up, thinking I'm some ordered barrel of drink, he murmured. So, he made a decision. He would search for Alvida's ship on his own. The first thing he did was tear his red tank top shirt since it no longer fit him and then took the straw hat off his head, letting it fall onto his back. Throwing the torn shirt away, he began to focus and understand his power. Closing his red eyes, the new Luffy started to concentrate on his back. Let's test my transformation, he said as he forced his strange power to manifest and enter the first phase of his mythical zone. Suddenly, he felt the zone fruit's energy flow through his body. First, his hair, which was shaved on the sides and had a messy top, matching his rebellious style, began to grow. This is strange and unexpected, but at the same time, it's amazing, he said with a small smile. When he stopped growing, it was as if he had a big black mane now. His hair was thick, but it hadn't lost its black sheen, turning the man into a different kind of beauty for feminine eyes. However, there was no girl around to admire his transformation at this moment, unfortunately. But his transformation didn't end there. In addition to the hair growth that reached the middle of his back, on each side of his upper back, wings began to emerge. As they grew, the man seemed to shrink in comparison, making him look like a kind of black angel. The man, even at 2.10 meters, seemed dwarfed by the wings that extended over 5 meters from his back to their tips. Hahaha. This is so cool. Luffy laughed as he admired his new transformation, releasing a different laugh from the original Luffy as he inspected and flapped his wings. I would really like to summon the first members of my crew right now or see the system, but I can't stand being in this damn barrel for another second, Luffy said and prepared for his first attempt at flight. With that, he flexed his knees inside the barrel, while his new wings moved with the same control as any muscle in his body. He leaned as they prepared to launch him upwards, and then he jumped. Boom. Another explosion occurred as the barrel shattered into thousands of pieces, and a man rocketed into the sky with dark wings moving at high speed, leaving a strong gust of wind behind him. "Oh! This is amazing!" he exclaimed with all his lung power as he soared upward. Luffy fought against gravity and kept ascending. "This is a bit tricky, but I can get used to it in no time. Since it's my first time doing this, I just need to be careful because there's no more barrel for me to return to," he said as he continued to fly toward the sky to reach his first clouds. Meanwhile, some time later. Somewhere else. "Come on, steal them all, take everything," a extremely fat woman said. "Yes, Captain Alvida." A chorus of voices rose in response to her command, and she smiled with satisfaction. "Kobe," she shouted again, and a boy with pink hair immediately appeared in front of her. "Yes, Captain Alvida." He saluted immediately. "Tell me, Kobe, who's the most beautiful woman in the East Blue?" she asked, and the boy shivered. "It's Captain Alvida, she's the most beautiful woman in the sea," he said quickly and fearfully. "Very well. Now, do you see all this blood and these bodies?" she asked with a malicious smile, and the boy chose poorly with this question. "Yes, Captain," he said softly, trying not to look at the dead civilians and soldiers strewn about in this vile raid carried out by Alvida's pirate crew. He was responsible for the cleanup. "Great, I want you to clean everything and remove anything valuable from the bodies." She gave the order, and he had no choice but to carry out her demand as he headed towards the unfortunate victims. For the rest of the time, Kobe continued taking some valuables from the pockets of those people. Robbing a corpse was by far the most unpleasant thing he could do here, even with all the abuse from Alvida. He had no choice. Otherwise, he could end up among the bodies. "Kobe. More bodies." A member of the crew arrived and said, laughing, tossing 2 more corpses near him. Kobe could only lament. His expression didn't escape the captain, who stopped what she was doing and looked amused at the young man. "Koobyyy. Don't you like doing this job?" she asked with a threatening look. "It's not that, Miss Alvida. I'm doing it, don't worry," he said in a hurry and fearfully trying to accelerate his work. "Then do it without any grimaces," she growled. "Yes, Captain," he responded immediately. "Now, answer me again, who's the most powerful and beautiful woman on the seas?" "Captain Alvida." "That's right. Lucky you have some sense," she said with a malicious smile. But she was soon interrupted by some men who arrived running. "Captain, we have a problem," said those men, who arrived in a panic from the pirate cruise ship, landing on the commercial ship they were looting, and they ran to Alvida with terrible news. "What is it now?" an irritated Alvida said, as she was interrupted in her precious narcissistic moment. "Our treasures. They've all been stolen from our ship." Ah. He didn't finish speaking because Alvida hit him head-on with her club, sending him flying with his wounds bleeding after that sudden impact. "Hey, you. Can you repeat what he said?" Alvida asked the other man who arrived with his companion. He looked at his former companion and the trail of blood he left behind, trembling and fearing Alvida's wrath falling upon him too, just because of the terrible news. He could die here. Kobe wasn't any different, waiting for Alvida not to take it out on him, too, in case she wasn't satisfied. "Oh, our treasure was stolen, Captain," he said, and Alvida lowered her head, silent and immobile for a while. Then she raised her gaze, showing her fury to the poor fellow. "What did you say?" "Wait, Captain." "Ah." He didn't have a chance as he was thrown like a ragdoll. She saw her subordinate fly and shouted to the other men. "Listen up, everyone. I want you to search every inch of these ships. Bring me that thief with our treasures in 10 minutes. She roared loudly, and everyone panicked, not only for their treasure but also because their lives were in danger here if Alvida was dissatisfied. "And you'd better find that damn thief. Otherwise, I'll..." She couldn't finish her threat because something unbelievable happened. Boom! An explosion occurred behind Alvida. She quickly turned to see what was happening, thinking it might be an attack from another ship. The sea was empty apart from her own pirate ship and the commercial boat they were plundering. But when she returned her eyes to the small explosion, she realized it was a newcomer who seemed to have fallen from the sky. This situation left everyone stunned for the next few seconds. "Oh. I finally made it," a cheerful voice said amidst the dust and debris that had risen on the deck. "Can't believe I got lost while I was in the sky. How did something like that happen? In the end, I managed to find the ships when I thought I was going to die because my wings couldn't take it anymore." Still, I almost arrived late. The voice spoke to itself, sounding quite dissatisfied. This guy said senseless things while everyone was bewildered. Maybe I have the legendary talent for getting lost on the way, like that Zoro fellow. That would be terrible for me if that's the case. The strange voice debated with itself, and nobody knew to whom it belonged. It seemed very manly and animated. Whistle wow, there are quite a few bodies here. You pirates in this world don't mess around, and it seems this world is really dangerous. There must be all kinds of real crimes. It's a bit scary, but I'll have to get used to it since I have big plans here. The voice continued talking to itself while everyone was still listening. No one knew what to say to break the strange atmosphere that had taken over. Oh. Look who's here. The voice got excited as it emerged from the smoke. Everyone was even more bewildered when they saw the man coming out of the smoke. He had dark hair with a pompadour and red eyes. He was taller than anyone in this place, exuding confidence in his posture as he approached Alvida. Image here. He was shirtless, displaying his perfect muscles, and covered in tattoos. He was wearing flip-flops and shorts that seemed quite tight on him now, but he didn't seem to mind it much. He walked towards Alvida without hesitation. Alvida, seeing the incredibly beautiful man who showed most of his athletic body, blushed a bit, something Kobe noticed beside her, his eyes and mouth wide open in a huge grimace. Is this really happening? He screamed internally. It was right to be sure that I would meet you on this wonderful day. So it's you. The woman named Alvida, who claims to be the most beautiful woman in this sea, isn't it? He said with a big smile, without caring that he was surrounded by 50 pirates and many civilian bodies on the ground. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. 20 comments 0 vote. Download the app for greater interaction. You can chat with me about my writing experience apart from the comments section. Raccoon League. Download app now. Chapter 3 Alvida. Chapter length, 1818 words. Monkey D. Luffy's POV. Aboard a commercial ship, East Blue. I was right to be sure I would meet you on this wonderful day. So it's you. The woman named Alvida, who claims to be the most beautiful woman in this whole sea, isn't it? He said with a big smile, not caring that he was surrounded by 50 pirates and many civilian bodies on the ground. Luffy smiled at her provocatively, making her blush even more. She wondered if she was seeing things or if this handsome man seemed genuinely interested in her. Kobe also noticed Luffy's genuine interest in his captain and stood there stunned, feeling like he wanted to vomit. Kobe wondered if this man had some problem with the opposite sex or was blind, as he seemed to be flirting with a terrible, fat, and ugly woman like Alvida. Is this guy blind? He must have some sort of mental issue or something. Kobe exclaimed as he tried to make sense of the situation before him. I am, Captain A. Alvida. Kobe wanted to die after hearing his captain stammering like a love-stricken maiden at this moment. But who are you? She asked for his name, and Luffy smiled at her, looking into her eyes with a certain spark. My name is Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will conquer all the seas in this world. His voice was controlled, but everyone heard it in shock. Silence fell over the place. Suddenly, all the pirates burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha. 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 Did you hear that? He'll conquer all the seas. Who does he think he is? Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. That was funny. What a strange guy. I heard something that brightened my day out here at the end of the world. I agree with you. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. While all 50 pirates laughed at Luffy's bold words, Kobe was horrified by the statement. Surprisingly, Alvida remained calm in the face of these words, as she stared at the handsome man full of confidence. She was blushing without anyone noticing. Luffy, on the other hand, remained calm despite the mockery and confidently smiled at Alvida. Tell me, my lady, what is your dream? Luffy suddenly asked her, which made her surprised by the question and thoughtful. Me. I haven't thought about it yet. Maybe. Maybe I want to marry a handsome husband and have a family with many children. She stammered at first but timidly continued with a red face. Her response made everyone stop laughing and look at her strangely, half of them wide-eyed, the other half wondering if she had been replaced by someone else. Kobe was almost vomiting blood at this moment. What's happening here? We were just informed that we were robbed right under our noses, and now Alvida, who moments ago wanted to find the thief and punish anyone for their incompetence, is now talking like a teenage girl in love. Kobe wanted to faint at this moment. It was too much for him to absorb, refusing to accept the reality before his eyes. That's a very noble dream. To live in peace with your family is a very good thing. Luffy had a moment of reflection, looking out to the horizon, and suddenly his eyes returned to Alvida, who was blushing with emotion. My lady, I can say that when I first saw you, I was certain that I had found my soulmate. The man said with a seductive smile, making Alvida, with her 200 kilos, open her eyes in surprise and quickly turn away in embarrassment, unable to believe what she had just heard. Everyone, Kobe, the pirates, and even the prisoners who were tied up by the pirates, fell to the ground at this moment. Just a short while ago, their captain was breaking their bones over stolen treasures, and now she was acting like a girl seeing her first crush, while the man in front of her clearly had some vision or mental problems because every time he spoke, it only fueled this madness. What the hell is going on here? They all exclaimed while wanting to vomit blood. Are you blind? Suddenly, the pink-haired boy, who was vomiting blood, shouted and quickly closed his mouth, realizing he had spoken loud enough for everyone to hear. But to his surprise, this man named Luffy smiled and walked toward a stunned Alvida with his actions and words. A boy like you shouldn't meddle in the love between two people, the man said calmly, once again causing everyone to fall to the ground with dumbfounded expressions. Yes, Kobe-kun, you should mind your own business while your dear boss talks to this wonderful knight. Alvida spoke in a tone she had never used before. She seemed totally in love now. Kobe-kun. Kobe vomited much more blood at the sight of Alvida, who had always treated him worse than a dog on her ship, now acting all sweet in front of this crazy man, who clearly had some vision problems. The man approached Alvida with the woman completely embarrassed and submissive at this moment. He raised his arm and lightly caressed her chin, making Alvida blush like a tomato. Wait, Mr. Luffy, we can't rush things like this, maybe we can get to know each other first. She said timidly. No one said anything, as it was too much for their brains to comprehend and process in all these scenes. They seemed mentally broken. I know, my love, but I must say some things for our future together. Luffy began. Our future together? She exclaimed with a touch of passion. First, you're not the most beautiful woman in these seas. You're quite ugly, actually. He said calmly. This shocked Alvida, who realized she couldn't feel the ground beneath her anymore. The others remained silent. They were already broken and couldn't handle any more surprises. Otherwise, they would all be vomiting blood along with Kobe. Author's note, they're not actually vomiting blood. I know this is a Chinese idiom, but I can't think of a more hardcore term to describe the situation. Luffy continued speaking, while Alvida was almost in tears. But I don't deny that you're my soulmate, and I know you'll become the most beautiful woman in East Blue. I have no doubt about that. He flashed a seductive smile. Alvida was stunned as she looked at him emotionally once again. Really? Do you believe I can be beautiful? Alvida couldn't help but ask, excited after that last shock. I have no doubt about that, my love. That's your true dream, and I believe in you. Luffy said calmly. But you'll have to achieve that dream before we can finally be together, he said. Wait. Are you saying you're leaving, and we can't be together now? She exclaimed alarmingly. Luffy calmly took her hand and said, I know it's difficult, but it's not the time for us to be together yet. But soon we will meet, and you will follow me for the rest of our lives, my beautiful Alvida, I'm sure of that. He spoke seriously, looking into her eyes. Is that true? She couldn't help but ask again, a bit lost. Yes, you will become a beautiful woman soon and will be able to find me at that time. As a demonstration of my confidence in you. Luffy suddenly raised his hand and clenched his fist in front of her. My grandfather taught me the best way to show love to someone. Your name says it all. Alvida heard all this paralyzed as she saw Luffy pull his fist back and prepare to strike her, but before she could say anything, it was already too late. Your name is the Fists of Love. This is my demonstration of the love I feel for you. Luffy said and punched Alvida in the stomach before she could react. What? She only managed to express herself before feeling her world shatter. Moa Moa no Mi. Strength, apply 10 times. Luffy unleashed the power of the Moa Moa no Mi. With the strength of his fist increased tenfold, coupled with his monstrous body, this impact exploded Alvida, and everything in the space where she stood was destroyed. Kobe, who was closest, flew off the ship and into the water like a rocket. As for Alvida, no one could see her in the next moment, as the force was so strong that she was in front of Luffy one moment and disappeared in the next, with the entire ground being destroyed. No one could even see the enormous woman flying with such force. What the heck is happening here? A collective scream was heard with their comical faces. I think I might have overdone it a bit, Luffy said as he looked at his fist while opening and closing it. Either way, I know she'll be fine. I just hope I threw her in the same direction as Luffy did in the original and that she can find that slippery fruit. I sighed and looked at everyone, who were now looking at me as if they were seeing a terrible monster. You. What are you waiting for? Your captain just flew in that direction with one of my fists of love. Go rescue her now. I growled at them. How can that be called a fist of love? They exclaimed, but then they ran to the other ship to set sail after their captain. Meanwhile, a young boy with pink hair climbed onto the commercial ship after emerging from the sea. He hesitated about whether he should return to the pirate ship or not, seeing that everyone was heading to rescue Alvida. Hey, kid. I'm sure you can help me find the location of Shell City. I asked him, pulling him out of his conflicting thoughts. What? How could I help you? He asked suspiciously. By taking me there, of course. If you want to go back to that pirate ship, it's your problem. I simply said, ignoring the blood vomiting from him shortly after those words. Ignoring the thanks of the other survivors on the commercial ship, as Luffy wanted to get to a beach quickly, he and Kobe took a boat from the ship and headed to the Shell Town, where Zoro should be imprisoned at the moment. In the meantime, Luffy noticed but ignored the small boat with an orange-haired woman heading in the opposite direction with some treasure bags as he was sailing with Kobe. We'll meet again, Nami, Luffy murmured to himself, not looking back at the girl on the other side. Did you say something, Mr. Luffy? Kobe asked a little cautiously. It's nothing, just keep rowing. Luffy said lazily. Thus, a timid pink-haired boy and a man who looked more like a thug set off for Shell's Town. Filled diamond hollow diamond 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 filled diamond hollow diamond. Raccoon here, Raccoon. I deeply appreciate your support since the beginning of this exciting journey. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star RaccoonLeague Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more. Patreon RaccoonLeague. 32 comments 0 vote. Chapter 4 Kobe. Chapter length, 1691 words. Kobe's POV. Somewhere in the sea, East Blue. After obtaining a small boat from the commercial ship, Luffy and Kobe got into it and started rowing, moving away from the ship. While Kobe was relieved to finally see Alvida's ship moving away, forgetting about his existence as the ship's handyman, he was also terrified. In front of him was a man who looked more like a monster than a human, even worse than Alvida. Who says they like someone and shows it by punching them? Kobe had this terrible thought as he continued to row. This man in front of him may have a screw loose in his head for hitting on Alvida like that, but he was still a monster in strength. What kind of human would do that with just one punch? I didn't even see the trajectory of the poor woman. Kobe exclaimed internally, not wanting to provoke this aberration in front of him, who had already given him orders to row towards Shell City, which he did with all the speed he could muster. The man himself was sitting, looking out at the sea, admiring the view without paying much attention to Kobe. You know, it's rude to stare at people like that. His mouth moved as he spoke those words without turning his face away from the horizon. I'm sorry for that. Kobe quickly apologized as if his life depended on it. Hahaha. Relax, buddy, it's not like I'll eat you just for looking at me, will I? He laughed, seeming to enjoy Kobe's fear. I'm sorry. Kobe said the only thing that came to his mind. Tisk, you apologize too much. Annoying, just keep rowing then. He said, and Kobe quickly followed his order. It was a strange moment for Kobe. On one hand, he felt fearful of the idea of this man, who looked like a stylish thug, wanting to kill him at any moment. But the man had been quiet all this time, and while Kobe was rowing in a certain direction after checking the maps, he didn't seem to care much about the pink-haired boy. He continued to enjoy the view of the sea and its breeze. But that didn't last the entire journey. At some point, this man felt bored and spoke after a long silence since the last exchange of words. Tell me something, kid. Where are you from? He suddenly asked, catching Kobe a bit off guard. Me. I'm from a small village on a nameless fishing island, Mr. Luffy. The pink-haired boy mumbled. And how did you end up on Alvida's ship, kid? You're clearly not a pirate. He asked while looking directly at Kobe, who shuddered and shrank back from those fierce, red, and dangerous eyes. I'm an orphan, so one day I went fishing to feed myself. But I ended up being captured by Alvida and her crew, and since then, I've become her servant. Kobe replied, regretting it after gathering the courage to answer those piercing eyes. I see. I won't say that's unfair to you. Life in this world is more or less like that, the stronger eat the weaker. I just think you should become stronger. Otherwise, you'll be at the mercy of others for the rest of your life. He said, and Kobe lowered his head. He had dreams, but he didn't have the courage to voice them, even though this man seemed willing to listen. Once again, silence took over the small boat. Kobe, seeing this, finally mustered the courage to talk to this man on his own initiative. Are you from the East Blue, Mr. Luffy? Kobe couldn't help but ask the strange man, who was even more powerful than Alvida, despite seeming to have some screws loose when it came to Alvida being his soulmate. I am. I was raised by mountain bandits near Goa Kingdom, on Dawn Island. He said with a smile as he recalled some memories of his past in this body. Despite the changes he had undergone, Luffy's memories and bonds with others remained the same. Mountain bandits. Kobe couldn't help but widen his eyes in astonishment. That explained why this man acted the way he did, as Kobe had seen before. That's right. Dayton and the others give me a nostalgic feeling when I remember them, just like Ace and Sabo, Gramps, Makino, and others. They make me have those thoughts. And I'm being influenced by Luffy's memories. Luffy couldn't help but murmur to himself. His initial response shouldn't have mentioned Dayton, but here he was talking about a past he hadn't really lived but had memories of and feelings for. Kobe, hearing this, couldn't quite grasp the meaning of those words, but he felt a melancholic atmosphere. This was something he hadn't expected from a character like this Luffy, who he had just met and who had been ruthless and indifferent so far. Kobe tried to change the subject as the silence extended between them once again. What do you plan to do in Shell Town, Mr. Luffy? He asked curiously, as that was the man's objective. Simple, I'm going to recruit Roronoa Zoro. I heard he's imprisoned by the Marines at the naval base on the island, he declared. This left Kobe quite stunned. What? But you said you're a pirate. The famous bounty hunter won't let you leave alive as soon as he finds you. Kobe began to get hysterical about this. You shouldn't go, Mr. Luffy. You. Ow. While his hysteria continued, Luffy flicked him on the forehead so hard that it was equivalent to a punch. OWWW, why did you hit me? Kobe couldn't help but complain. Because you talk too much. And I felt like doing it as you cry like a coward every time you open your mouth. Luffy said straightforwardly. Coward. Kobe couldn't help but mutter as he thought about his life since he went fishing and was caught by Alvida 2 years ago. I think you're right. In the end, I'm just weak, at the mercy of others. Kobe lamented, while Luffy sighed upon seeing this. Kobe, tell me, do you have a dream? Luffy asked. I do. But I'm not sure if I'm worthy of it. He said without much confidence. You're already starting wrong. Luffy said, gaining a curious look from Kobe. Then Luffy continued. You lack faith in your dream, so you'll never achieve it. Luffy said simply with that conclusion. Faith in my dream. Kobe murmured as they were in the middle of the ocean with no ships in sight now. Look, Kobe, if Alvida's dream is to be the most beautiful woman in East Blue, it will come true if she has unwavering faith in it. You might be surprised when you see her next time. Luffy spoke seriously. Just like how I'm the man destined to conquer all the seas. Even if I die pursuing my dream, I won't give up believing in it. Luffy said, putting his straw hat on his head to emphasize the seriousness of his words. Even if I die pursuing my dream. Kobe was captivated by this man's words, even though he had been quite intimidating with his bad boy demeanor. Kobe gained a new determination in his eyes. With a clenched fist, he said. You're right, Mr. Luffy. I'll join the Marines. I'll become an admiral and capture all the pirates in the world. Puff ouch. That hurt. Why did you hit me again? Kobe, who was finishing his heartfelt words, felt another flick next to his head. Don't say you'll capture all the pirates while sitting next to a pirate. Luffy tried to instill some sense into the boy in front of him. I guess you're right. Wait, aren't you laughing at my dream? Kobe asked, looking at Luffy's stoic face. Tisk, why would I laugh at someone's dream? Luffy asked, huffing. Remember, Kobe, in this world, people's dreams have no end. Luffy spoke earnestly. People's dreams have no end. Kobe couldn't help but murmur as well. Yes, I like that phrase. Even if it was said by a treacherous bastard, I have to admit that he has principles in his dreams and is willing to do anything to achieve them, after all. Luffy said, thinking about Blackbeard, a man so evil that he wanted to plunge the world into darkness, but Luffy could admire his determination towards his goals and dreams. I think I understand. You're right, Luffy, do you think I can become an admiral? Kobe asked cautiously. Only one person should believe in this dream above all, Kobe, and that's you. The rest of the world doesn't matter as long as you have faith in your dreams. Luffy spoke with the charisma of a leader. Thank you. Kobe couldn't help but express his gratitude. He was ready to chase his dream this time now that he was free from Alvida. He had the chance to join the Marines and fight for the justice he had always yearned for. While Kobe reassessed his determination and rode with more purpose, Luffy thought about opening his system for the first time in this world. He could have flown to Shell City to speed up the journey, but since he got lost the last time he did that, he didn't want to go through the same experience. He decided to let Kobe handle navigation while he planned his next steps. Besides, he wanted this boy to become a powerful marine in the future. The sea would be more interesting that way. So he took advantage of his time while muttering to himself. Moa moa no mi, speed, apply 30 times. When he did this, Kobe was startled by the sudden increase in the boat's speed, which they could both feel. What is this? Kobe exclaimed in surprise. Relax, just be careful not to veer off course, and I'll check some things here. Don't bother me for a while. Luffy said, settling in on the other side of the boat while he muttered quietly. Dash 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 dash. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. 13 comments 0 vote. Chapter 5 Kuina. Chapter size, 2021 words. Monkey D. Luffy's point of view. Somewhere in the sea, East Blue. Relax, just make sure we don't deviate from the route. Meanwhile, I'll check some things here. Don't bother me for a while, Luffy said as he settled on the other side of the boat, muttering to himself. While the boat sailed through the sea at a speed 30 times faster than before, Luffy decided to take a rest. He opened his system and started examining it. System. Crew locked. Shop. Inventory cards. Dash 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 dash. It's a rather simple system. There's the crew screen, but it's locked because I don't have anyone under my flag yet. There's a shop where I can buy anything from this world with some conditions. The currency is in berries and gold, but I'll need a lot more for it to be useful. I only have 2 million that I got from the commercial ship, which is practically worthless right now. And lastly, the inventory of cards with 4 cards. This option will disappear once I consume them all. Luffy went through the entire system. He wanted to check the shop, but it would be a waste of time at the moment. He decided to look into it later. Luffy glanced at Kobe after he closed the system screen. Well, talking to this kid is quite boring. Despite his potential, he's so timid right now. I guess I'll take a nap to pass the time. Luffy reasoned and spoke to Kobe. Kobe, Luffy called him, making the boy quickly look at him. Yes. He replied nervously, and Luffy sighed. Keep guiding us to the island. In the meantime, I'll take a short nap. Luffy said to the boy, who was relieved by the brief interaction. Hours passed, and Kobe finally spotted the city with a large naval base at its highest point. Should I wake up Mr. Luffy now or when we reach the port? Kobe mumbled as he looked at the view of the island. No need to, Kobe, ha ha ha. Luffy suddenly appeared behind Kobe, laughing happily after a short nap. He put his straw hat back on his head and looked at the island, lost in thought. Kobe was startled by Luffy's sudden awakening. Mr. Luffy. Kobe couldn't help but be surprised by the abrupt change and was curious about the man's actions, thinking that he might be planning something at this moment. Kobe, I'm going ahead. We'll meet later. Luffy declared. Before Kobe could respond, Luffy's appearance began to change. His hair suddenly started growing, and incredible black wings sprouted from his back, leaving Kobe in shock. What is this? Kobe couldn't help but shout. I'm a devil fruit user, didn't you know? Luffy said with a strange expression. I thought those things were just legends of the seas. Kobe exclaimed but quickly covered his mouth with his hands, fearing that his loud outbursts would anger the man before him. Hehehe. Now you see that it's real. If you ever want to defeat me someday, be aware that it won't be easy. Luffy simply declared with a big smile. He then flexed his knees as his wings slowly lifted to gain altitude. Anyway, see you later. Goodbye. Luffy said, and with a burst of strength in front of Kobe, he took off into the sky. The boat swayed, and Kobe almost fell. The boy watched in amazement as the man soared into the sky, leaving him alone in the boat heading for the island. Incredible. He couldn't help but marvel. As he tried to stabilize the boat, he realized that it was losing speed. Am I losing speed? He noticed that the boat no longer had the speed it had before, realizing that it was another ability of Luffy's devil fruit. While Kobe was admiring the sight, Luffy was flying 300 meters above the sea toward the island, increasing his speed. He quickly arrived at the location after a few minutes. He spotted a deserted beach outside the city and headed in that direction to avoid drawing too much attention. Luffy landed gently, his wings kicking up sand. He took his first steps on the island as his wings began to dissipate, and his hair returned to its normal length. It seems like I'm alone here. This should be a good place for what I'm about to do, he said as he looked around the deserted area a little away from the city. I just hope I can convince them, he sighed and then opened the system again, clicking on his summoning cards in the inventory. My first card can bring someone back from the dead, and it can't be someone strong. In fact, it has to be someone weak. Fortunately, there is a person for this, and even though they are weak, I recognize their potential. Summon a resurrection card. Yes, number. Yes. Think of who you want to summon. Understood. Come forth, Kuina. Luffy had always wanted to meet Zoro's old friend, Kuina, who had the same potential as or even more than the swordsman after the time skip. A bright light appeared on the beach, powerful and dazzling. It didn't take long for it to start dimming and, suddenly, a woman stood in the place where the light had been. She had dark blue hair, long and flowing, resembling Tashigi after the time skip, minus the glasses. She had the body of an adult in her early 20s. Observing her, Luffy couldn't help but comment. And to think I can't believe I actually managed to do this, bring someone back from the dead with this card. Luffy exclaimed as he watched the woman regain consciousness, taking in the surroundings and trying to orient herself. Where am I? She said, frightened, finally regaining consciousness after her last experience, which shouldn't have been a pleasant one, as she had died. Luffy could understand why she seemed so agitated in front of him. Seeing the lost woman, he opened the system and spent some of his meager money to buy a cloak from the shop. Who are you? She asked quickly, realizing that she was alone on this strange beach with only this man in front of her. He seemed distracted, gazing off into the distance. First, put this on. Luffy snapped out of his reverie and held out a cloak that had magically appeared in his hand, throwing it over her naked body for the time being. Seeing the cloak thrown over her, she took it out of habit but soon realized how her body was without clothes. What do you think you're doing, you pervert? She shouted, quickly covering her body with the cloak and her face turned red. I just brought you back from the dead, and that's the first thing you say about me. Luffy couldn't help but raise an eyebrow at this clueless woman. She might be beautiful with an adult's body, but he wasn't interested in a girl who should have the mindset of an 11-year-old. So I really was dead. That wasn't a dream. She murmured in shock, forgetting for a moment that she was naked, which was quite understandable, as knowing that she had died and was now alive again should be a shock. Yes, you died 11 years ago. I managed to give you a second chance, Luffy said calmly. He didn't want to beat around the bush and chose to tell her the truth directly. What? 11 years. It can't be. She covered her mouth as tears began to form in her eyes. I know it's hard to grasp, but what matters is that you have a second chance now, Luffy said calmly to her. But how did you bring me back? Is my father still alive? Her first questions came with tears. As for how, I can't say. I can only do this once with the help of a divine artifact, but it broke as soon as I summoned you, I lied, not wanting to explain the function of the card. But I wasn't entirely wrong, as there was only one card that could do something like this, and it had already fulfilled the wish I hoped for. Luffy looked at her and continued to answer her questions. And yes, your father is still here in East Blue, still running that dojo. She fell silent at my words but then looked back at me. Why bring me back here? Why me? I don't think you knew me 11 years ago. Her world was crumbling with this information, so she wanted to know why I used this artifact on her. She actually believed my story, as her death was real, and she was now alive again. I chose you because I know about your history. Don't ask me how, just understand that I know. I'm starting my adventure on the sea and need people with great potential by my side. I believe you have it, just like your friend Zoro. I believe you can reach the pinnacle of swordsmanship in this world, even as a woman. Luffy spoke his mind. Despite her death being a necessary plot point in Zoro's story, Luffy always felt that she deserved something better. He wasn't even sure if she would accept his proposal, but he still wanted to give her a second chance, as she was someone who could match Zoro's potential, and this world would be more interesting with someone like her. She might even be able to defeat his old friend in the future, whether as an enemy or an ally. Do you really believe in me? She couldn't help but ask, forgetting that she had just come back from the dead. Yes, I won't lie. I want you to join me. I'm a pirate, and you would be my first crewmate, I said to her. Pirate? You want me to be a pirate like you? She asked a little scared. Of course, she didn't like the idea of being a pirate, as she had a negative opinion of them. Yes, I am, and I want you with me. But I won't force you if you don't want to. I knew there was a chance this would happen, and I summoned you anyway. I won't force you. I can be a jerk in many ways, but I won't force anyone who doesn't deserve it to join my crew, I said. If you want to live at the dojo and return to your father, I won't stop you, but I think it's a waste of your potential. You can make your father eat his own words that he said once, as you gain a name in this vast sea and see the world. I finished my little speech. I really didn't want to force her. I won't restrict people's freedom like that. There are some plans to force some people, but she's not one of them. I might have summoned her using a precious card, but I'm more like the original Luffy with a desire for freedom at sea. Even if she doesn't accept joining my crew, I hope she doesn't waste her life here in East Blue. I'd like to see her name resonate throughout the world in the future, and she might even give me a good fight in the future, whether she's an enemy or an ally. I don't know. Can I think about it? Can I see my father before deciding anything? She asked a little uncertainly. All right, let's go to your island then. But I have to do some things. You can accompany me before returning to your father? I asked. Yes, I think so. It's the least I could do after you brought me back from the dead. She mumbled, but her eyes viewed me quite favorably now, which wasn't surprising after what I had done and said to her. All right, now I'm going to summon other people, not anyone who's dead this time, so stay in that corner and don't worry, I'll buy you some clothes later, I said, and she watched me for a while as she adjusted the cloak on her body and moved away, wondering what I was going to do next. Summon a card. Yes, number. Yes. Think of who you want to summon. Come forth, Trafalgar D. Law. Dash 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 dash. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more. Chapter 6 Trafalgar D. Lammy. Chapter size, 1995 words. Monkey D. Luffy's Pav. Beach near Shell City, East Blue. Open summoning card. Yes, number. Yes. Think of who you want to summon. Come, Trafalgar Law. A light outshone the sunlight on the beach again, and even Kuina in the distance looked curiously at the light, a little alarmed. Some time later, the light disappeared, and a white bear was in the middle of it with a white t-shirt and shorts, along with a woman with a polka dot hat and a large sword on her shoulder. What is this? The bear shouted, stunned. The woman beside him quickly looked around in alarm and surprise as she raised her hand with her palm facing the ground, ready to use her room at any moment. Kuina on her side was surprised by the sudden summoning, while Luffy looked admirably and a bit confused by this. A bear and a woman dressed like Law. Luffy spoke loud enough and looked puzzled at this because there shouldn't be a woman in front of him. Who are you? I'm sorry. The mink bear was the first to speak, hearing my voice. Luffy just called him a bear, but he apologized. Why? This is Beppo, I didn't think he'd be so peculiar. Luffy thought a bit stunned. Who are you? And why are we here? The woman dressed as Law asked angrily, seeing Luffy in the middle of the beach with them. She wanted to attack him at this point, believing he had done something to make them appear here. Wait a moment. Luffy shouted, confused and wanted answers. Where is Trafalgar Law, and why was his sister summoned in his place? I asked, not understanding anything. Who is Trafalgar Law? My name is Trafalgar Lammy, and I have no living brother. My only brother died many years ago. She shouted indignantly, seeming to reach her limit since she was already preparing to launch her attack. Now answer me before I attack you, why are Beppo and I here? Who are you? Did you bring us here? Where is this? She asked with the same anger. I understand, if Law is a woman in this world, she must be about 19 years old, so. It seems she swapped places with her brother. She is very beautiful, and she's an emo hottie to boot, using the same style as her brother. Why do women with tattoos make me so attracted? I couldn't help but comment as I looked at the tattooed woman in front of me. She was practically a female version of Law, with the same tattoos and style, making Luffy think that she must have experienced everything Law went through, and she was following the same path as the original would have let her experience. Perverted. I'm sorry. The women couldn't help but mock Luffy after hearing his comments, thinking of him as a pervert. Luffy scratched his head at that, but he couldn't help but be stunned when the bear started apologizing. Why are you apologizing? Luffy shouted at the bear in strange clothes without that orange jumpsuit. I'm sorry. He said again. Does he only know how to say that? Luffy lamented, giving himself a facepalm. This world is getting weirder by the minute. I should have known that, too. I couldn't help but think as well. Well, let's get to it. I did summon you, but it seems your companion came along, which is quite strange, but it's okay. The more, the merrier. He said to her, and she looked ready to use her op no mi at any moment. And what do you want? Why am I here? This place doesn't seem like the North Blue. She growled. Kuina watched the interaction, intrigued. She had seen how Luffy summoned this tattooed woman like himself, and now she was ready to attack her savior. On one hand, she still owed her life to this man, but on the other hand, she had seen him forcibly bring this woman from another ocean to this place, and she felt that this Lammy had every right to attack Luffy. Sai, I know it's hard to understand, but we are in the East Blue, and I summoned you to join my crew. I said simply, getting straight to the point. Join you? You must be joking, right? She said angrily. Are you saying that when Beppo and I were ready to set out on our journey, a light covered us at the port of our city, it was caused by you, and the next moment, we're here? And now you're telling me that you took me from the North Blue to recruit me right now? She snarled, and before Luffy could explain, she continued. Room. A bluish sphere covered a 20-meter diameter, while Luffy, Lammy, and Beppo were within its range. Looks like she won't listen to me now. I said with some disappointment. So she wants to do this? Luffy thought as he watched what she wanted to do. She drew her blade from its sheath and quickly advanced to strike at his neck, with the intention of removing his head, as Luffy had seen his abilities in the original work. However, Luffy was not as easy to deal with as she imagined. Let's see what you're capable of, you moody and cute girl. Luffy said with a smile to provoke her at this moment. Who are you calling moody and cute? She couldn't help but shout. As she attacked, Luffy activated the power of his fruit. Moa Moa no Mi, defense, apply 30 times. Using and applying the power of the Moa Moa no Mi in this way, he could have dodged, but he wanted to test his limits with a powerful body, adding to it a mythical zone fruit and increasing his hardness 30 times. He knew he had gone overboard here, but he wanted to start with the safest position to find out how strong his body was and the limits he could push it to. Her blade quickly reached him, making her smile slyly, but unlike what this woman imagined, when the blade touched his neck, it didn't sink more than the first contact. This made her lose her smile in an instant, and her eyes widened in disbelief. Is this all you can do? Luffy asked, taunting her, while her sword was touching his neck, and he didn't care, just crossing his arms. Impossible. How can't I cut you? What the hell are you? She withdrew the sword, incredulous, backing away a bit, and quickly launched another cut, but his skin rebuffed her weapon without so much as a scratch. She tried again, and again, and again, and again, and nothing happened while Luffy didn't move an inch from where he was with his arms crossed the whole time. He's a monster. Beppo shouted from a distance, watching all of this. He was truly a frightened bear now. That's right. This is impossible. What are you made of? Lammy couldn't help but say, seeing that her blade couldn't cut him or even make a scratch on his skin. Kuina, a little further away, was also stunned, showing a look of disbelief as she watched this scene. She saw how powerful this woman was and knew she could never beat her, but what scared her the most was witnessing her savior taking all those attacks with a smile on his face, not caring to dodge the woman's sword. You may still be weak, but even as a cute, moody girl, you have a lot of potential to grow, I admit. Luffy said, assessing and judging the emo girl in front of him. Who are you calling weak and moody? She shouted indignantly while trying to cut him again. Slash. Slash. Her cuts didn't even tickle him. They were just touches on his skin that he felt through his tactile sense as she tried to cut him, but it wasn't uncomfortable for Luffy. It was like a mosquito trying to bite him. Luffy ignored her attacks and continued speaking. "We can do this all day," he said with indifference to irritate her, which worked because he could hear her teeth grinding at that moment. "Don't get cocky." She attacked again, but to Luffy's surprise, she saw a part of his straw hat with a cut on his back as she spun around trying to cut him. It was just 3 cuts, but Luffy couldn't help but be stunned by this. His feelings for this hat were strong thanks to the memories of the original Luffy. "My hat!" he shouted in astonishment. Even though he wasn't the original Luffy, he still had a great affection for this hat that Shanks had given him when he was a child. "Oh. I'm sorry if you're angry." Lammy began to taunt, but stopped when she saw the expression on Luffy's face. This made her fall silent instantly because she felt a very unpleasant premonition with it. He no longer had an indifferent look. There was anger towards this woman. No one should damage his hat, no matter who they are. Even as she was about to respond to this, Luffy disappeared within his room. No one touches that hat and gets away with it," he said, appearing in front of her with the same angry tone before the woman could react. Boom. His punch went straight to her stomach, and she simply flew like a rocket to the other side of the beach. Crack. The sand around her exploded in a 10-meter radius as Lammy collided with the ground, cancelling the room they were in, with the result that the woman was defeated with a single blow. "Captain." Beppo cried and looked at me like a frightened dog now, thinking he could be my next victim. Kuina was speechless on the side. First, Luffy couldn't be cut by a blade, and she even recognized that Lammy's fencing was more powerful than she was used to. Now, she had witnessed his incredible strength and superhuman speed. From that moment on, she was starting to wonder if he was really a human or something else. "Beppo," Luffy called the white bear, who was still frozen in fear. "Why yes." He stammered and stood up when he heard his name being called by this monster. "Take care of Lammy. I'll talk to her later when she wakes up. For now, I'll take care of a few more things," I said, and Beppo looked at me for a few seconds, still paralyzed, and finally nodded, running to his captain through a hole created on the beach. He started running towards the hole that his captain had created with the impact of her own body, and Luffy turned to Kuina next to him, who was still stunned, trying to process everything that had happened. "Kuina, can you help her?" Luffy asked the girl wrapped in a cloak beside him. She nodded, but didn't take her eyes off him, as she began to move to help Beppo take care of the emo woman. I really didn't want things to end like this, I muttered while looking at Beppo searching for his captain in that hole. Luffy was angry about his hat, but even so, he didn't use his strength to harm her permanently. But he doubted that she didn't break some bones with that impact. Not everything would be as easy as I imagined. I hope she has a civilized conversation later when she can hear my proposal and what I have to offer her, I grumbled. Well, I need to fix my hat later since I don't like that cut that girl made. But first, I'll use all my summoning cards first, he said, opening the system again. Open summoning card. Yes, number. Yes. Think of who you want to summon. Come, Yamato. Dash 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 dash. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. 11 comments 0 vote. Chapter 7 Yamato. Chapter length 1823 words. Monkey D. Luffy Pav. Beach near Shell City, East Blue. Open summoning card. Yes, number. Yes. Think of who you want to summon. Come, Yamato. A light appeared a few meters away again and dissipated a while later. Luffy was the only one paying attention to them, while the others pulled Lammy out of the hole. In the center of it when the light dissipated, there was a 263 centimeters tall woman with a type of mace in her hand, wearing traditional Wano clothes with various colors but stylish. Her face was better than most women in this world, with snowy white hair mixed with blue finishes, and her red horns stood out with their yellowish base. There was no doubt that this woman was the most beautiful he had ever seen. The first thing the woman did was to look around in confusion, trying to orient herself. Luffy hadn't said anything yet, looking at this beauty and how she was reacting to this summons, while Beppo and Kuina pulled an unconscious Lammy out of the hole 100 meters away. The woman who had just appeared first looked at the bear and the blue-haired girl with curiosity from that distance. Once she grasped the bizarre situation, her inquisitive gaze shifted to the man standing in front of her, a few meters away. She realized that he was studying her and knew that her appearance here was for some reason caused by him. She hadn't said anything so far. She was just observing the environment with curiosity, looking at him calmly with an inquisitive expression. Seeing that she was in silence, Luffy decided to break the ice. I recognize you as Kazuki Oden, he told the woman, who immediately widened her eyes upon hearing those words. You know me? She exclaimed, astonished but seemed happy that he recognized her as Oden. Yes, I brought you here, he said calmly. Who are you? Where are we? This doesn't seem like Onigashima or Wano. She said, quite concerned. You can call me Kazuki Toki, he said simply, crossing his arms again and remaining silent in the next moment before answering her second question, since she'd be absorbing the first piece of information. You're my Toki. She exclaimed in surprise, but there was a blush on her face as she thought about the relationship between Oden and Toki. She might be 24 years old, but she's a virgin, so this is a normal reaction, even though I'm doing this to recruit her, not to sleep with her, Luffy thought to himself. Since she insists on self-identifying as that man all the time, how can I win her over? By self-identifying as Oden's woman. Luffy mused. I am Oden, but I will call you my Yamato from now on, he said to avoid saying, my Oden, which would be quite odd. She was at a loss for words. Do you not love your Toki anymore? Luffy asked, pretending to be offended, but his question didn't match his current expression. He looked quite virile to be the woman he was referring to at that moment. But Yamato seemed oblivious to this. No. I am Oden, of course I love my Toki. She shouted immediately, trying to clarify any misunderstanding. After all, in Oden's journal, he loved his Toki, so she couldn't mess that up. Luffy smiled awkwardly at the woman. How easy it is to have this woman as my comrade. He thought. She's one of the best women he's seen in the anime and one of the strongest. Her strength is above that of the three disasters, second only to Kaido, her own father. But she's a bit eccentric. She self-identifies as Oden after reading his journal for years, so being like Oden is all she wants in life. So he'd be her Toki, making this figurative sacrifice. Listen, Yamato. I'll call you by that name, but you'll always be my Oden, okay? Just call me Luffy from now on, he told her, and she looked at him with curious eyes. Are you sure? She looked at him suspiciously, not easily convinced in the end. After all, she wanted to act as a man. Yes, I'm sure, because you're here with me now, and away from that damn father of yours. Luffy said confidently. Well, now that you know I'm your Oden and you're my Toki, I'll call you Luffy. She finally said after a brief internal conflict. But you didn't tell me where here is. She exclaimed again. Well, now I have a few things to clarify. Listen, Yamato, Luffy said, and she looked at him with determination. First, as you can see, we're not in Wano anymore, not even in the New World. He said, and she looked at him with huge eyes. What? But my collar. She shouted in panic, but she was kind of an idiot, so she didn't even notice that her neck was now free. Look at your neck. I removed all the negative things when I summoned you. You're a free woman now, he clarified. But I'm a man. Even so, I don't believe it yet, but this is incredible. As expected of my Toki. She said various bizarre things but, in the end, she grabbed him with such joy that he couldn't even react to the woman's enthusiasm. She lifted him up and placed him between her breasts, squeezing him tightly and laughing with happiness after many years in captivity in Onigashima. Ha 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 ha. Thank you. You freed me, my Toki. She was shouting with joy, finally liberated from the shackles of her father after years. Alright, call me my Luffy. And let me go because I still have much more to say, my Yamato. He told her to calm down a bit. She let go of him after a while. Meanwhile, on the other side of the beach, the mink bear and Kuina were checking Trafalgar Lammy's injuries, but they couldn't help but look in their direction as Yamato shouted with happiness and excitement. They wondered who this tall woman with a pair of horns was and why she seemed so happy. First, I'll remind you, call me my Luffy. I want our identities to be concealed. You will be my Yamato, and I will be your Luffy, understood? Luffy told the woman in front of him. But I am a man. She protested, playing the female role. As I said, our identities must be concealed, understood? He told her, and she started to think about it. I guess. Then I'll be your Yamato, and you'll be my Luffy, she said, murmuring her dissatisfaction finally. Another thing, my name is Monkey D. Luffy. I'm Ace's brother too, he said, surprising her even more. What? You're Ace's brother? I remember him talking about you and thinking you're my Toki all this time. she said, even happier. Listen, Yamato, I still have to tell you one more thing. Calm down, he said before she tried to hug him again. I brought you out of Wano and sent you to East Blue. You're no longer bound to your father. Now we can have adventures together. There's no doubt about that, but I also want to invite you to join my crew as my first mate. In that case, you'll be my vice captain, he said. I'm happy, my Luffy, but I'm also worried about Wano. That old bastard could harm the father I have to protect. She muttered. Don't worry. We'll get stronger together. When we reach the Grand Line, we'll not only interfere with your father in Wano but turn the world upside down. What do you say? He said, presenting his true proposal with a big smile. Yes. Let's force that old man out of Wano together. I'll kick him out of there. And we'll turn the world upside down. I can't wait for that. She quickly agreed. She initially wanted to confront her father more than anyone else, so apart from rescuing her from that place, he gave her a good reason to join him now. Not to mention that she wanted to experience her own adventures, just as Odin did in his time. I'm happy for that, my Yamato. Welcome aboard. He said happily, and before he could react, she hugged him again. While Luffy was being suffocated by her breasts, a message appeared in front of him. System, the first crew member has been chosen, the crew screen is now unlocked. Crew, Yamato has joined as a member of your crew. He. This is really interesting. My first crew member is a woman of Yamato's caliber, who must undoubtedly be much more powerful than me at the moment. But she is officially my vice captain, as none of the others I summoned have accepted my proposal yet. Luffy muttered internally but was celebrating while being hugged. After ignoring the system screen, he wanted to make his last summon before continuing his rescue with Zoro. He had the last card, so after thinking a bit about who to summon, he decided who should be a priority right now. My Yamato, can you help that blue-haired woman, Kuina, and the mink bear called Beppo, take care of that other unconscious woman in front of them? They may be possible members of our crew in the future, he asked Yamato after she cancelled her warm hug. I guess so, she said while assessing the situation on that side of the beach. They were currently tending to Lemmy's injuries. Okay, go there now, while I finish summoning our next crew member. Later, when we reach the Grand Line, I'll tell you more about our plans to free Wano from your father, he said, and she expressed a joyful face, agreeing to it. Yes, I will. She shouted with determination as she walked over to that side with her kanabo, her mace, on her shoulder. Instead of continuing to choose that space for his next summon, Luffy approached the beach's water and continued to walk through the sea's waves. He was affected by the weakness of the sea, but it was not enough to prevent him from returning to the beach. These shorts are too small for me. I need to buy a new pair from the store soon, he muttered as he walked against the small waves. He felt that his clothes were too tight and wanted to change them, but he thought he could do it later. He walked until he reached an appropriate depth to summon the person he had in mind. There were so many people he could summon, but he decided to choose her because she had great untapped potential. Even though she was a crybaby, Luffy would make sure she became a powerful individual. Open summoning card. Yes, number. Yes. Think of who you want to summon. Come, Shirahoshi. -- Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star RaccoonLeague Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. 14 comments 0 vote. Chapter 8 Shirahoshi. Tamana do Capitulo, 2976 Palavras. Monkey D. Luffy's Pav. Beach near Shell City, East Blue. Open summoning card. Yes, number. Yes. Think about who you want to summon. Come, Shirahoshi. The light appeared once again, this time in the middle of the beach's water. Ah. Luffy could hear the startled scream of a frightened young woman. Sharky. Another strange sound came from the light. If Luffy wasn't mistaken, that was the noise Megalo made in the original work. What's happening, Megalo? Why is everything suddenly glowing? Luffy heard the frightened voice of the same young woman in the midst of the light, as she questioned what was happening. Sharky, Sharky, Sharky. Megalo spoke with his strange voice as if the animal was grumbling. The light field wasn't small like the others. It covered a giant area this time. When the light disappeared, a giant mermaid appeared in front of Luffy, her tail thrashing in the water with excitement. She had bubblegum pink hair and wore a seashell bikini. Her sight was matched by another huge shark wearing a red shirt, even bigger than the mermaid. Both of them had a soap bubble float around their waists, allowing them to float and swim with ease. What is this? A mermaid. So big. Luffy heard 3 startled voices coming from the beach. Kuina, Beppo, and Yamato couldn't help but be surprised by the sudden appearance of Shirahoshi in the middle of the sea. Why am I seeing the sun? Am I breathing surface oxygen? Where am I? She asked with a teary and frightened voice, quickly looking around. Sharky, Sharky, Sharky. Even her shark was agitated and scared. He seemed to be suffering from not being in the water, but Luffy knew from the original work that he could breathe oxygen. Nevertheless, he couldn't help but find his reaction hilarious. Ha 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 ha. Hello, mermaid princess, and you, shark, can you breathe? Luffy opened a smile after laughing and greeted the girl excitedly, catching their attention. Sharky. Megalo seemed relieved by the reminder of this strange human and began to breathe the oxygen calmly now. A human? Who are you, Mr. Human? She asked cautiously and quite frightened. Princess Mermaid, I am Monkey D. Luffy, a pirate. Luffy introduced himself with the same smile. A pirate. She became even more frightened, ready to cry and run. I brought you from the Fishman Island, princess, because I know you need my help. But this is strange. Seeing you here, you look older than I imagined. I thought you would be much younger. How old are you? Luffy asked curiously because she shouldn't have this appearance at this time. What do you mean I need your help, Mr. Human? I'm 18 years old, she said cautiously, wondering how Luffy would help her and why he had brought her here. Now he was asking about her age. 18 years old. Well, that's unexpected, as she should be 14 at this time. At least I'm not kidnapping someone underage. Luffy sighed with relief. He found the change strange but also pleasant, as the girl was even more beautiful than he remembered, just as beautiful as Yamato. Luffy-sama, how can you help me? Seeing the human murmuring to himself, she asked again with a curious tone, but still very cautious in her question. She was quite frightened, having been in her room reading some books with Megalo, and then suddenly finding herself here. As much as she wanted to look at this place on the surface, she was still concerned about why she ended up here with this human. Luffy heard the question but had other thoughts on his mind before answering. In addition to the altered age of the mermaid princess, he realized that this world had other differences from the original. He noticed that Lamy was a female version of Law, and now Shirahoshi was older than she should be. Could it be that by changing Luffy, the fate of this world has also changed? Since the original Luffy should be the protagonist, there have been changes that will alter reality. For example, this mermaid is older than she should be, so she can be stronger in the future events. With me here, perhaps the world understands that I won't save Fishman Island, so it's like they've been preparing her for it, and it will indeed happen, as I intend to train her for it. Luffy reflected mentally on this. Well, let's get down to it. I summoned you to help because, first, your kingdom is in great danger in the coming years. I said, and she widened her eyes with some realization. The island of the Tritons is in danger. So it's true. She said, worried to the point of almost crying at this information. Even her shark tried to console her beside her. Yes, that's why I brought you here. I'm going to help you save your kingdom, I said, speaking the truth now. Shirahoshi is an ancient weapon, Poseidon, but she was not powerful at all when I saw her in the anime. I want to recruit her and make her so strong that she can protect her country with her own hands. But I'm weak. Shirahoshi said, forgetting the fact that she appeared here out of nowhere as if she had been kidnapped. Yes, you are weak and crybaby, I said without caring about hurting her feelings. I'm weak and a crybaby. Wah. She started crying immediately. Sharky, Sharky, Sharky. Megalo started protesting on the side with my words. But I can make you strong and brave. I said with an enthusiastic smile. What did you say? She asked, stopping her tears immediately and looking at me wondering what she heard. Join me, and I'll make you the most powerful princess in the world. You can also fulfill your mother's wish. I intend to help you with that, I said to her. My mother's wish? Can I really do that? She asked incredulously. Yes, I will help you make it come true. I believe you can do it. You can make your people coexist with the surface, that's what I believe. Luffy had a charismatic tone, believing that he could bring this princess under his wing and make her strong enough to achieve her goals. He wasn't interested in this princess as a woman. She had such a young mindset since she had been locked up in her room for years. But he could make her one of the most powerful people in the world on his ship. However, he couldn't deny that she was exceptionally beautiful, as he had seen in Yamato. Do you think I can be as strong as my mother? But I can't even leave my room. She said, lamenting. Look around, princess. You're in the East Blue now. No one will hurt you while I'm here. That Vanderdeckenix who threatened you can't even send flying objects at you anymore. His fruit's effect was cancelled thanks to this summoning. I said, trying to reassure her. Really? But my dad and my brothers will be worried. She nearly cried at this moment again. Don't worry. As long as you're away from them, you will become strong enough to protect all the people of your island and your family. Don't you want to be strong enough to protect them, both your family and your people? I believe you're the only one who can lead your people to live on the surface. Jimbei may be a warlord for the government, but he will never be able to achieve this. But in you, I believe. Luffy gave his speech, saying everything he thought and planned and anticipated her response. I want to be strong. I want to do what you're talking about, Luffy-sama, she said, a bit sad, and continued. But I. She was about to cry at that moment. Luffy interrupted her before she could continue. You are the hope to fulfill what your mother couldn't, Shirahoshi. You are the future ruler of the fishmen, and only you can lead them in this approaching new era, which is full of chaos. Luffy spoke with conviction. But my brothers should take the throne. She quickly protested, not wanting to take her older brother's birthright. No, they are the sons of Neptune, indeed. But besides you, there is no one with the ability to raise the fishmen to a better future. As I said, your people are in great danger. Your brothers must understand that even though they are older, you were born with the birthright to rule not only the fishmen but all marine life. Never forget that, princess, Luffy said with conviction. If not Poseidon, then who? He hadn't seen the final outcome of the original work, but surely Shirahoshi had a significant role in it. He never believed that the original Luffy could fight the world government on his own with his crew, so he had been acquiring powerful allies throughout his journey. And this mermaid was one of them since she possessed a power that could potentially destroy the world. I was born to rule over marine life. She couldn't help but be skeptical of these words. Sharky Sharky, Megalo murmured on the side. Yes, I believe it. You will become strong enough to save your family, your people, and elevate your race to the surface, something your mother couldn't achieve, Luffy said. If Luffy-sama says Shirahoshi can be strong and brave, then Shirahoshi believes in Luffy-sama. She finally said after some time of wrestling with herself as she tried to refute. Well, that was too easy. Luffy couldn't help but think that, because the mermaid in front of him should be frightened and ready to run to the sea, not that he didn't appreciate it, but there had to be something else he overlooked. Wait, why do you believe me so easily? Not that I don't like it, but I'm a human who took you from the Fishman Island. You shouldn't be scared. Luffy questioned. He couldn't help but ask. But then he remembered something. Island of the Tritons is in danger. So it's true. Shirahoshi's words resurfaced in his mind. Wait, what did you say before? Did you already know that Fishman Island is in danger? Luffy asked, and he saw a conflicted look on her face. A few years ago, Madame Shirley came to the palace to warn my dad about a vision of the future. She seemed uncertain and continued. In the vision, a human would take me away and help me move and see the real world before I return to my kingdom. When the island needs me the most. I don't know much. But my dad refused to that, and I've had enhanced security for years, and he never let humans enter the palace except for Whitebeard's crew. Shirahoshi said with a softer tone and continued. In the end, I've always waited for this human. I've always wanted to see the surface, but I never expected it to happen like this. So I believe Luffy-sama's words. I believe he's the human in Madame Shirley's vision. Crew, Shirahoshi joined as a crew member. A screen appeared in front of Luffy. My second crew member. He exclaimed inwardly. That's so unexpected, but you can be sure that this vision is real, and I have good intentions for you, princess, Luffy said, analyzing everything Shirahoshi had said. He was happy that a prophecy from that woman had helped him even before he entered this world. I'm very happy to have you on the crew, princess. Let's work together in the future, and welcome. He said with a big smile, and she responded with another timid smile, happier than she had been before. First of all, let me adjust your size. I'm sure the news of the Princess Mermaid's disappearance from the palace will be heard soon in many parts of the world. So I need to disguise you a bit, at least in terms of size, to help hide your identity a little. I murmured as I approached her. Shirahoshi. Give me your hand. I said, and she calmly placed her hand in my direction. When her hand was close enough, I put my palm on it and used my power within my capabilities. Moa Moa no Mi, mass, apply 0.1 times. By multiplying by 0 in front or below 1, I can reverse the effects within my capabilities, making my power even more versatile and useful. Shirahoshi, who felt my touch, soon noticed the changes in her body, which was rapidly shrinking. Luffy-sama, what's happening? She cried out in fear. Sharky Sharky Sharky. Even Megalo was frightened, watching his friend's transformation. Shirahoshi was shrinking at that moment, and I didn't say anything until she reached 17 meters, to 1.70 meters, 40 centimeters shorter than me, while the girl was stunned in front of me. I was satisfied with the result. Sorry for this repeating, but I reduced your size to avoid attracting too much attention, I said. You've gotten so big, Luffy-sama. She was immediately startled by this, and Luffy laughed at her reaction. Ha ha ha, of course not. Now let's do the same with Megalo, I said, turning to the shark, who was a bit cautious. Sharky Sharky Sharky. He clearly didn't want it. Sorry, buddy, but you can't stay with us at this size, I said and touched him, making him as small as Shirahoshi. Don't worry, princess. This effect isn't permanent, but it will be good for you to get on our ship, I said, trying to reassure the still frightened princess. I guess so, Luffy-sama. She said a little sadly and continued. Now, come with me. I want to introduce you to the other girls, I said, returning to the beach. As Shirahoshi followed me, she was accompanied by her shark, who floated with a soap bubble around their waists. For the first time, she looked at her surroundings and was fascinated by the new sights in her life. Is this the sun? It's so warm, she said as she followed Luffy to the beach. Is this a forest? It's green. I've never seen one before. Is this sand? Are those birds flying near the sun? Is that a human city? It looks so different from the Fishman Island. Luffy couldn't help but smile at the young woman seeing so many new things in her life for the first time. How's Lammy? I asked when I reached the girls and the bear. While Lammy was a bit bandaged, Beppo had adhesive bandages in his pocket for some bizarre reason. She's fine, Kuina said. But I still think she needs more bandages. Yamato couldn't help but comment in a silly tone. Do you want to turn the captain into a mummy? Everyone looked at Beppo, who had an unexpected outburst of anger. I'm sorry. The bear quickly apologized, embarrassed by the attention. What a funny bear, Yamato said with a smile, not caring that he had just yelled at her a moment ago. Kuina sighed. She had never seen such peculiar characters in her life. Even though she remembered meeting Zoro, he wasn't as quirky as Yamato, Beppo, and even Luffy. Moreover, she couldn't ignore the fact that Luffy was coming with a mermaid who had been gigantic until recently, followed by a shark wearing a t-shirt that didn't seem to need to breathe water and floated in the air like the mermaid. What happened to her, Luffy-sama? Shirahoshi, seeing the small injured human lying on the sand, couldn't help but ask, worried. She slipped and fell, Luffy said, scratching his head, because how could he say that he had punched a woman for cutting a piece of his hat just a while ago? He was sure she would cry and run away, saying he was a monster. She slipped and fell. Both Beppo and Kuina yelled indignantly, knowing the real reason for Lammy being in that condition. That's funny. She fell pretty badly to have broken 6 rib bones and dislocated an arm and a leg. Yamato smiled, speaking these words calmly, while Shirahoshi put her hand on her mouth in concern. Kuina, Beppo, and even Luffy looked at Yamato strangely because she had believed Luffy's words and said it so strangely. In any case, you stay here for now to take care of Lammy, because I want to talk to her when she wakes up. Meanwhile, I'll go get my first swordsman for the crew and the 3rd member, he said as the first swordsman, with a smile, because Kuina hadn't joined yet. But before I go, take this. He handed a set of clothes he had just bought in the system store to Kuina, who was still wearing only the cloak from before, and a dress for Shirahoshi to help her conceal her tail, which was quite conspicuous on its own. Then, in front of a group consisting of a passed-out person, a human, a bear, a mermaid, a shark, and a dragon woman. Luffy wasn't quite sure of Kaido's genetic makeup. Setting aside those thoughts, the group saw Luffy's transformation. His hair started growing again, with huge wings appearing behind him soon after. What is this? My Toki is amazing. Everyone looked strangely at Yamato at that moment, wondering why she called me that and referred to me with a female name, not to mention the strange stars in place of her eyes. Fantastic. I'm sorry. Luffy-sama is amazing. Sharky Sharky. So, without wasting any more time, Luffy took off into the air, lifting some of the beach sand in front of the group, and headed towards Shell City. Dash 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 dash. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. 10 comments 0 vote. Chapter 9 Zoro. Tamana do Capitulo, 2105 Palavras. Monkey D. Luffy's POV. Shell City, East Blue. As Luffy took flight, he looked towards the marine base. I should have had some time to deal with the girls before, but now I'll rescue him. Wait for me, Zoro. I said and used my momentum to increase my flight in that direction. It didn't take long to be above the base at a distance of 1 kilometer. Thanks to my mythical zone, I can see every detail from this distance. It's great to have enhanced eyes like all the other animal senses, Luffy said to himself as he looked at the base below, examining all the structures. He glanced in one direction and finally spotted the man tied up in an empty courtyard. Damn it. He heard the green-haired man muttering quietly with his sharp ears. I started to fly and descend towards him. He didn't notice me as I silently landed behind his cross. The sun was in front of him, so he couldn't see the shadow of a giant bird behind him. Turning off my wings silently, I began to approach him from behind. You seem to be in a tight spot, huh? There's even food on the ground. Luffy said casually and noticed the dropped bun on the ground, realizing he arrived a bit later than the original timeline. The green-haired man quickly startled by this sudden voice from behind. Who are you? How did you sneak up behind me without me noticing? He became quite alarmed by Luffy approaching from behind, but the man with the straw hat couldn't blame him for his reaction. How I got here doesn't matter, but let me introduce myself to you. I am Monkey D. Luffy. The man whose dream and goal are to conquer all the seas and shake the very foundations of this world in the process. I said with a big smile. Conquer the seas. Shake the foundations of this world. Zoro said, raising an eyebrow, but he didn't laugh at this declaration. After all, he was another dreamer. That's right, I'm a pirate, I said, looking into his eyes. And I hunt pirates sometimes to get by, so you better leave, he simply said, and Luffy smiled. Hold on there, my friend. Let me finish speaking. I can't be arrogant and think I can do all of this alone. I need a crew to fight against the world and turn it upside down. I can see your ambition too. What's your goal? Luffy asked, knowing already what his next words would be. I made a promise to someone a long time ago that one of us would become the greatest swordsman in the world. I am Roronoa Zoro, the man who will become the greatest swordsman in the world. He said firmly, while I smiled enthusiastically. Very well, my friend. A worthy dream for a swordsman in my pirate crew. I said, and he looked at me strangely. I'm not interested. Knowing what I was insinuating, he cut me off. Sorry, Zoro, I won't force you to join my crew because I don't think you deserve that, and I don't find it very cool with most people. But now you're a criminal, and you'll never survive being hunted by the Marines when you're alone at sea to become the world's greatest swordsman. I said, trying to persuade him. I made a deal with the Marines. If I stay here for a month without eating, they'll set me free. I've been here for a few days, and I can stay much longer like this. Zoro said. And you believe that? I raised an eyebrow with that, knowing his fate. What do you mean? He asked, narrowing his eyes. Look, Captain Morgan's son, Helmeppo, is going to execute you soon to take your sword, the Wado Ikimonji. You're either going to become an outlaw or a dead man. Which option do you choose? Luffy said, crossing his arms in front of him. He looked at him for a few seconds, realizing there was no mistake in his words, and finally spoke. He's really going to do that. His tone showed immense anger. I have no doubt about that, Zoro. Unfortunately, you relied on an arrogant coward. Now you'll pay for it. Luffy said. Zoro looked at him for a while before speaking again. Are you serious when you say you want to conquer the seas? He couldn't help but ask that. Yes, I will be known as the king or emperor of the pirates, and I need the greatest swordsman in the world by my side. What do you say? Luffy said confidently. All right. I'll join you, just get my sword back, and as long as you don't stop me from pursuing my dream, I'll be your swordsman. He demanded. Well, I can do that, but why would I leave you here defenseless? I asked while opening the system, went to the store, and bought a low-quality sword for him. Where did this sword come from? He was surprised by the sudden appearance of the sword, but I didn't bother to answer as I cut his bindings. This made him fall to the ground in the next moment. Now that he was without ropes, he didn't say anything as he got up and walked over to a piece of land with a dropped bun and picked it up to eat. This is great. I haven't eaten in days. He said happily, eating the bun and the earth. Ha ha ha, that's funny, take this sword, I don't need it. Luffy threw the sword into his hands. What do we do now, Captain? He said, inspecting the sword, but it didn't surprise him, as it was a low-quality sword, but useful at the moment. Crew, Zoro has joined your crew. I smiled at the system message and looked at the swordsman. Simple, we'll get your sword back, take over this marine base, and destroy it in the process. I said enthusiastically as he raised an eyebrow, wondering if I was joking. Come on, let's see what these marines are capable of. Luffy said without waiting for a response from Zoro and walked directly to the front of the marine base, at its entrance. It didn't take long for them to find the entrance courtyard of the base, with Helmeppo being escorted by 2 marines as they seemed to be heading out to do something in the city. He should go to the restaurant where Luffy and Kobe found him in the original story, Luffy thought. Yo. I said, raising my hand to greet them, causing them to turn to my sudden voice and look at me stunned as they studied me bewilderedly. Luffy appeared to them like a criminal, with a rather sinister smile on his face as he approached them. Who are you? Zoro, did you escape? He shouted, and the men beside him quickly grabbed their weapons to attack the 2 approaching them. I raised a hand to Zoro, asking him to let me handle it, and I began to walk toward the trio without any fear of their weapons. As I advanced calmly, 2 rifles were already aimed at me, but I didn't pay much attention as I continued to walk. Shoot him! Helmeppo shouted hysterically. Bang! Bang! The shots were heard by everyone in the vicinity, and the noise echoed through the area. Those who were shooting, along with Helmeppo and even Zoro, had expressions of disbelief as they saw the bullets strike my skin and crumple upon impact without penetrating. The sound of crumpled bullets falling to the ground could be heard by those nearby, in the midst of the ensuing silence that settled over the area. Well, you guys are worse than Lammy. At least I could feel a bit of her sword's touch. Luffy said, bored, as the bullets continued to collide with him. Ignoring the fact that Luffy was talking about someone named Lammy, they were shocked at this strange figure, which just stood there, stopping bullets from penetrating his own body. Even Zoro couldn't believe his eyes. He never imagined that someone could stop a bullet with their own skin. And he doesn't even know about the monsters in the New World, Luffy told himself as he observed Zoro's surprise. Seeing that they had stopped shooting, Luffy started walking toward the trio again. Stay away, you monster. Helmeppo was now more terrified than ever, taking steps backward, trying to get away from here. Before Helmeppo and his guards could escape, I used my speed to approach. Moa Moa no Mi, speed, apply 30 times. I may not have the gear 2 of the Hito Hito no Mi, but my speed already surpasses it by far at this level. In their view, Luffy disappeared from where he stood, reappearing right in front of them. Without saying anything, I delivered a punch to each guard on either side of Helmeppo. Boom. Boom. Their bodies slammed directly into the marine base wall like rockets. Luffy wasn't a good person, and they had tried to kill him because he was going to spare them as the original Luffy did. Luffy didn't know if they would survive those punches, but he didn't care anymore. He removed his eyes from the holes in the wall made by the marines and looked at the frightened Helmeppo in front of him. He glared at the son of Captain Morgan, one of the worst kinds of people imaginable. Who would they be? The hypocrites of the Marines, people who did evil under the guise of justice. These were the kind of people Luffy detested the most in life. So, I heard that you like to intimidate the citizens of this city. Luffy said calmly, looking into his trembling eyes. Wow, what do you mean? My father won't let you hurt me. Helmeppo was very scared now, and having Luffy, a stranger, staring at him like a predator didn't help alleviate his tension. Let me show you how to intimidate someone. Luffy said with a sinister smile. What do you mean? My father won't let you hurt me. Helmeppo was very scared now. Hee, if he shows up, I'll make him join the fun. Luffy talked like a thug, maintaining a wicked grin. Before Helmeppo could respond to this, Luffy grabbed him by the arm. Crack. I simply bent it effortlessly, and his arm made a sound as if bones were breaking. Ah. Want to give up already? Luffy said with a small interrogation, looking at the pathetic Helmeppo beneath his hand, now barely able to speak after receiving 2 blows to the face that destroyed him. It's a shame that you can't take it anymore. I could have taught you more, but let's finish this. He said, as he looked at the base and simply launched a badly injured Helmeppo directly into the window on the 5th floor, like a ragdoll. Crack. They could hear the sound of the window breaking from that height. Zoro and the Marine guards who had seen this man torturing the son of their captain pointed their guns at him from the walls of the base, but they hesitated to shoot, and no one had yet managed to inform their superior. Luffy's actions had been so sudden that they didn't know how to react. "Let's make this more attention-grabbing," Luffy said with a smile, while Zoro looked at him trying to understand what he was planning. Luffy looked at the gate and pointed at it with the palm of his hand. "Let's use this ability for the first time," Luffy said with a smile as a powerful purple flame appeared around his hand, appearing to charge with every moment and growing stronger. "What's this?" Zoro was shocked by this, but not nearly as much as what would happen next. Without responding to Zoro, the flame in Luffy's hand flew and was shot with a small explosion, like a cannon, at high speed, directly towards the gate. The base's gates were still closed, so the flame hit right in the middle. It wasn't just the marine base that heard it. The entire city trembled from the explosion. A group of women with a bear and a shark heard it on a certain beach, and a boy in a boat near the island was also startled as he saw an explosion in front of the base, from where he was several kilometers away at sea. He wondered what on earth was happening there. Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. 7 comments 0 vote. Chapter 10 Garp. Chapter size, 2,530 words. Monkey D. Luffy Pav. Shell City, East Blue. BOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOoooooooooooooooo of the blast, and terrified Marines ran, dropping their weapons from the wall. Zoro didn't look much different from them. Whistle quite an explosion, huh? Luffy said, pleased. Are you even human, are you sure? Zoro yelled while trying to shield himself from the explosion. Where the marine gate used to be, now looked like hell on earth. There was no more wall, as it had been disintegrated by the impact, and the ground was dug a few meters deep, forming a small crater with purple flames burning on the earth at this moment. In my defense, I had no idea how this power worked. It was the first time using it. Luffy had to come up with an excuse as he scratched his head. He really had no idea he was this powerful. This power may not be as powerful as Kizaru's, but I haven't even used its full potential yet. He thought as he contemplated his potential and considered the future. He turned to a still dazed Zoro and said. Anyway, let's head to the base. The soldiers must be regrouping now. Morgan will show up soon. Luffy said as he walked in the opposite direction of the gate in chaos, which was now on fire. The soldiers on the wall, who were aiming at them, ended up fleeing in fear after witnessing this display of power. With not much more to say, Zoro started following him closely. Who are you? The pair heard a voice as they approached the main building, and at that moment, the main door burst open with a hurried boom, revealing a giant man with an axe in place of his right hand, standing almost 3 meters tall, glaring at them in anger as he appeared before them. Ah. You must be Morgan, the captain of this base, right? Luffy asked, not caring to introduce himself. Several Marines were pointing their weapons at the pair behind him, but fear was evident in their eyes. They couldn't remain calm after seeing and feeling what Luffy had done, even if they thought it was due to some bomb he placed on the gate rather than the chaos flames generated in a matter of seconds by the palm of his hand. Otherwise, they would be fleeing at this moment. Luffy smiled at them. Yes, I am Morgan. Do you have any idea who you're attacking? No pirate attacks a marine base and gets away with it. He said as a threat. Hee, I'd like to see that. I'm a pirate, and I do what I want, Luffy said as he walked towards Morgan without hesitation. This only made Morgan even angrier at this young pirate. He then saw Luffy approaching the line of his attack, and as he walked, he raised his axe and swung it. Then die. He shouted and swung his axe with all his might. Luffy, seeing this, had only one thought. Moa Moa no Mi, defense, apply 30 times. Crack. His axe connected with my body but stopped there, not going a millimeter further. It even created cracks in the weapon with the impact of Luffy's body. This is impossible. Morgan shouted, now truly scared. Is that all the great Captain Morgan can do? It's stronger than bullets, I admit, but it's still weaker than Lammy's blade, Luffy smiled as he spoke. Shoot him. Kill them. Morgan immediately yelled, trying to retreat from this monster. Moa Moa no Mi, speed, apply 30 times. I disappeared from the spot, reappearing near Morgan's head. Moa Moa no Mi, strength, apply 30 times. I still couldn't use 2 applications at the same time. I would have to further develop my fruit to achieve that. However, I could quickly switch between applications of multiplication. Luffy didn't waste time and punched Morgan's head in that instant, without giving him a chance to react. I switched from speed to multiplied strength to see what would happen. I could defeat him with just my physical strength, but I wanted to test my limits. Boom. The impact of my punch created an explosive sound, causing Morgan's head to detach from his neck in an instant. Boom! Another impact followed, with the severed head exploding and flying into the marine base. The soldiers, seeing their captain lose his head like that, were shocked and immediately dropped their weapons in surrender, knowing they were in front of a monster. Luffy calmly landed on the ground and looked at the impact created by his punch. Whistle. He whistled, looking at the damage he had caused. Do any of you still want to fight? He asked the men in front of him, who had already surrendered by dropping their weapons. No. We surrender. One of them said. Great, we're pirates, and we don't care about the Marines. I'm going to plunder this base, as long as you don't interfere with it, we won't harm you, he told the man, who looked cautious but yielded to Luffy's relentless gaze, unable to fight back, knowing that Luffy could kill them on the spot. Great, show my companion here to the treasure room, he pointed to Zoro since Luffy decided that Zoro would be assigned to collect the treasure in his old weapon. I also want to go to the main Den Mushi, one that can connect directly to Marine headquarters, I told them, and the man who spoke to Luffy had widened eyes at this. You want to talk to Marine headquarters? The man couldn't help but ask in surprise. Yes, you can do that. Remember, you are now my hostages. Ha 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 ha. He said with a sadistic smile, and the Marine in front of him began to sweat. Why yes. The poor man yielded. Zoro, get your swords and take all the money from the vault with you. In the meantime, I'll talk to my old man, I said. Your grandfather? Zoro asked incredulously, but Luffy didn't bother to respond and followed the man who led me to Morgan's room. Here is the Den Mushi. The man said, still sounding nervous. Call the headquarters, please, I said, and the man started dialing the special number hurriedly. Click Mushi Mushi. This is headquarters. What does Marine base stationed in Shell City, Unit 153, need? A demanding voice came from the snail. Yes sir, there's a pirate who wants to speak with you. The poor man was afraid as he spoke hesitantly. What do you mean? The voice became serious, and the snail's expression changed, now that he heard this. Give me that, and thank you. Luffy smiled and said as he took the communicator connected to the snail. Hello, I'm the pirate Monkey D. Luffy. I announced with an even bigger smile and spoke before the other end of the line could question me or recite the usual lines about how Luffy couldn't escape punishment and that he would pay for it, the usual lines. I wish to speak with my grandpa, Monkey D. Garp. He should be in Sengoku's office right now, if he's still at Marineford, Luffy said calmly. The room fell silent, both the Marine next to Luffy and the one on the other end of the line. They choked when they heard this. Who was Sengoku? The highest level of the Marines. But here was a nameless pirate from the East Blue, asking to be transferred to the highest level of the Marines, room. And even more importantly, who was Garp? The hero of the Marines, the strongest man in the Marines, ranks, a symbol of the highest prestige in the organization. Not even the 3 admirals could compare in strength and reputation. But here was a rookie pirate saying he was his grandson, and how could people take that lightly? Is this? Even the voice became nervous now. While the man who had accompanied Luffy to this room was about to faint. Tell him I took this base and its personnel hostage. He'll understand, Luffy said, still smiling. His expression didn't match his actions, as Luffy was taking over a whole Marine base, not strolling in the park to smile so easily. All right. The voice said nervously and seemed to put the Den Mushi on hold. A little while later, the snail's expression changed, and a much older voice boomed from the other end. Luffy. What do you think you're doing? You became a pirate. His grandfather's voice was seething with anger. Ha 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 ha. Hello, Grandpa. It's been 6 months since I last saw you. I miss you so much. Luffy laughed and spoke sincerely. He was influenced by the original Luffy, so he felt a genuine connection to this man as a grandfather. In the original, even though he loved this guy, Luffy didn't want to see his grandpa because of his fist of love, but this new Luffy was different. He genuinely wanted to see the man. Boo-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. My grandson misses me. But your voice sounds different, have you grown in these? He laughed happily and did a 180-degree turnaround when he heard that his rebellious grandson missed him. Garp. Sengoku shouted angrily at Garp beside him to get him to focus on the call. Oh, yeah. Luffy, what do you think you're doing? You kidnapped a marine base. He expressed his anger again. He, I wanted to talk to you again, Grandpa, I have some things to tell you, he said. But a voice interrupted me. What happened to Morgan? Sengoku asked hurriedly as he grabbed the communicator next to Garp. Well, I killed him, I said, and the room fell silent at that moment. You did what? Garp shouted in the background. Grandpa, I don't want to offend you or your precious Marines, but a commander who abuses his people to the point of hurting his subordinates and the city's citizens, claiming to do so for the sake of marine justice, is the kind of person I hate most in this world. Even pirates have more dignity than this type of person because pirates do evil without hiding behind a noble cause, Luffy said and continued. And he tried to kill me, called me a demon, a monster, but if a person is ready to kill, then they must be ready to die, he said without mincing words. I can understand that. My grandfather spoke, knowing that his grandson wouldn't lie, and he felt no deception at all, as his haki would hardly be wrong, even through a den mushi. Garp. Your grandson killed a base commander, right or wrong, and he tarnished the name of the Marines. Sengoku yelled in anger, and Garp, who had concurred with his grandson on the phone, scratched his nose beside Sengoku. Luffy, stay there, I'm coming to the East Blue to capture you. Garp shouted indignantly. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Grandpa, I have more corrupt Marines to catch in this sea, so I won't be here for long, Luffy laughed in amusement at his grandfather's request. This guy was really funny. Grandpa, I want to tell you something else. There's a boy arriving at this base. He's weak and cowardly, but he has potential. He's determined to reach the level of an admiral. I would say he would be the best pupil you could get since Enies are pirates. Luffy said with a smile. Curse them, I shouldn't have let you guys choose this lifestyle. Garp shouted in anger but quickly softened his voice. Tell me, is this boy here now? Garp asked, curious. His rebellious grandson's words had piqued his interest. Yes, Grandpa. He's going to enlist as a Marine. It's a good change. I would take him as a crewmate, but he's determined to fight pirates. I said. That's interesting. My grandfather said with a smile. Yes, I want you to train him with everything, as I know you and Sengoku are almost retired. I said with a smile, especially when the snail expressed anger that was nothing compared to before, while the Marine in the room with me fainted from those words. Luffy didn't care about that and continued. So the Marines need new potentials, only you guys aren't any fun when I dominate the new world. I hope for some challenge, you know. I said arrogantly, while my grandfather and the fleet admiral were left speechless by my remarks. Luffy, I'm coming to the East Blue to capture you. My grandpa shouted indignantly. Great, Grandpa, I would love to see you again. He said, with a smile, while the expression of the Den Mushi seemed genuinely happy at this moment. Boo-ha-ha-ha-ha. My grandson wants to see me. Garp laughed happily. Garp. Sengoku shouted again in anger. Oh yes, Luffy. Wait for me, and I'll capture you using my fist of love. He said. Grandpa, speaking of which, I learned to use the fist of love. I saw a girl I liked a while back and used those fists on her to show my love, but she flew too far. Luffy complained. Boo-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. So you use the fist of love the right way. While the grandfather-grandson duo chatted, Sengoku and the Marine who had fainted before and had now woken up were speechless with this conversation. How do you win over a woman by punching her? They exclaimed. The same listeners were speechless at the next action of the grandfather-grandson on each of the lines. Sengoku saw Garp fall asleep in front of him, while the Marine from Naval Base 153 was speechless when he saw Luffy and the Den Mushi fall asleep in the middle of the call. Garp. What a strange dream, I dreamt that my grandson missed me. He murmured, but when he saw the communication equipment in front of him, some veins appeared on his forehead. Luffy. How can you sleep in the middle of a call? Grandpa. Stay in the East Blue, Grandpa is coming to arrest you. Garp shouted. Okay, you can come, but bring some of those cookies. I want to try them to see why you only eat those. I plan to try them after I kick your butt, of course. Luffy said with a smile, but before Garp could respond, Luffy hung up the Den Mushi. Click. With that, Luffy left the room, satisfied, while the Marine who had been with him before was unconscious after hearing the entire conversation again. -- Follow me on Patreon. Glowing Star Raccoon League Patreon Glowing Star. Visit our Patreon for more web links. Next chapter.